All right, guys. One of the first things we want to take a look at when we're deciding what direction we want to be trading for the week. This is just something that you would do on a Sunday. It's Sunday right now, and it's roughly around 7:30, um, 8 o'clock, and everything is Eastern Time Zone for us. So if you live somewhere else, you'd have to change what time you're thinking of. But the first thing you want to do is first take a look at the weekly, and what you do is you go up to your plus or minus, hit the minus a couple times, and let's go ahead and zoom out on the chart, and let's start noticing where the market decided to turn around in the past a little bit. Okay, so these are the things that we want to take a look at. Is that we notice that we came all the way up to a high. We're not trading here, but we want to be looking at the highs and lows where we are currently trading. Currently, we are trading at 47.30. So now we know on a directional bias that the only way when we take a look at our 5 EMA and our 12 EMA, remember we talked about how to put them on, if in case, just to review real quick, if you don't know how to put the EMA on there, we go up to the indicator list, we go to a moving average, and then we go to, this is the 12 EMA, we make the 12 EMA red, and we make the 5 EMA green, but we leave it as exponential, and it's on the close. And let's go ahead and make this a little bigger. We go down to the second one. Okay, so that's how we have it on there. So now we could see that we have the green, which is the 5 EMA, is below the red, which is the 12 EMA. So that means we would only consider going short, because we know on a weekly chart we could see that the 5 EMA is below the 12 EMA. And when we have that shorter EMA below the longer EMA, we only want to consider going short. Now that we know that we want to consider short, we want to think about where this market might be heading. And we could see we had a nice big move here. You can see the 5 EMA was below here, then it crossed above, then it crossed below again. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to zoom in and take a look at these lows here, because remember, if we're going down, probably the next place that they would want to think about is going to these lows to decide if we're going to start moving back up like we did last time, or if we're going to continue lower to these other two areas. Okay, so also take a look. There's a nice consolidation here. That, remember, this is just the sideways movement that this has been moving in since 2008. It's been trading between this 68.80 area and down to this 41.80 area is where it's been trading. So we are getting pretty close down to the lows, that we might just get down to the lows and decide to trade back to the top. So now let's take a look at where we're thinking about trading to this week. Let's go ahead and zoom in and take a look at this. So then what we do is we see where the lows are that we want to take a look at. And we could go up to the top here, see where it says view, go right next to it, and go to insert a shape, and we put a rectangle. And what we're going to do is we're just going to put a rectangle around the area that we want to look at, because this is where the lows are. That just makes it easier to find. And what we're going to do is go over here and zoom in. Remember, this is the plus and the minus sign. The plus sign will go ahead and move you in closer to the chart. So we will zoom in again, and let's get back. Now also, when you are using the charts, remember this auto scroll right here, if you have it on, it will always go to the end of where we see the newest price movement. If you take it off, that will allow you to scroll back and forth. So when you're doing research, you're going to want to turn that off, so that as you're scrolling back to look at things, it doesn't move you to the front. Because if you're back here trying to look at something, If you have that on it, every time we have a new price, it scrolls all the way to the front. Then, if you want a little bit of room on the right-hand side, sometimes if you want to draw something, you hit the chart shift, and chart shift will give you some room over here. Okay? Chart shift is right next to the one that does the auto scroll. Now, when we take a look at this, we will notice that that since this is where we want to trade to, remember, we want to go ahead and put a horizontal line. This is how you draw a horizontal line right on the bottom of the body. Remember how we talked about the body of the candle is what actually the color is. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and put a line there, and that's where most likely the range that if they keep on coming down, this is going to be the range that they're going to want to look at before they turn around the market and start going up, or they might consolidate here a little bit more and then continue down to go to the other lows. So for this week, what we're going to be looking at is we want to take a look at that 46.30 area. Okay, so then since we took a look at this on a weekly, what we'll do is now let's go down to our daily, and we're still going to have that on our daily. We're still going to have that price there, but now what we're looking at is just sort of seeing how the market has been moving, and you will notice that we have been coming down. We started with a high, then we came down to a lower low. We moved up to another high, down to a lower low, then to a lower high, down to a lower low, then another lower high. Remember, here's your highs, and it's lower than the last one, so here's the lower high down to a lower low. Then we did it again, a lower high down to a lower low. So now, like we talked about in our trend lesson, this is what the trend looks like. Remember, we have higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows. So we know that we are trading down. And what we want to do when we think about what direction we want to trade, we also want to see we have the 5 EMA is below the 12 EMA on the daily. And if we go to the H4 real quick, we'll notice that it's also been below there, and it's below on the 4 hours. So the only direction, remember, we're going to trade is going short. So now, as we look for our entries and everything for the week, the only thing we would consider as we go further on our analysis is to be going ahead and drilling down on the charts and looking at our charts that we would start looking for entries and stuff like that we'll go over in another video. But this just sort of lets you know your weekly view. This is the first thing you do for the week, knowing what direction you want to trade. So now we know that the 5 EMA is below the 12 EMA on the weekly. We came down, we looked on the daily, we noticed that it was below on the daily, so that's a good thing. And then also, we looked at the H4. That is the time frame, the smallest thing that you really want to look for when you're thinking about what direction you want to trade in. You want to trade in the direction of at least the H4. That's really the smallest one you want to go to. So if your H4, the 5 is below the 12, you want to be trading short. Even if the daily, if the 5 is above, you still want to be trading what the H4 is doing. That's the smallest you'd want to go to. The safer play, and what I would probably want to stick with, is making sure that the H4 and at least the D1 have the same setup. So we have it going short. We have the 5 below the 12 on the daily and on the H4. Now the best case scenario would be what we have now, is we have it below on the weekly, the daily, and the H4. But the minimum you want to be looking for is at least have that 5 EMA below the 12 on at least the daily and the H4, and then look for only short entries for the week. Okay, hopefully this was helpful. If you have any questions, just go ahead and type any questions below the video, and I will clear them up But for now, just go ahead and take some notes, watch this a couple times, and make sure we understand how we're figuring out the direction that we want to trade for the week.